Echoes of the Minstrels, Music, Memory, and the Voices of the Medieval World. In an age before streaming platforms, recorded sound, or even widespread literacy, music traveled not through wires or waves but through people. Among the most fascinating figures of medieval Europe were the minstrels, wandering performers who carried stories, songs, and cultural memory from one place to another. Though often romanticized in modern imagination as carefree entertainers, minstrels occupied a far more complex and significant role in the societies they moved through. The term minstrel broadly refers to musicians and performers active during the Middle Ages, particularly between the 12th and 15th centuries. They were not a single, unified profession but rather a diverse group that included singers, instrumentalists, storytellers, and even acrobats. Some were attached to royal courts, enjoying relative stability and prestige, while others lived itinerant lives, moving from town to town in search of patronage, food, and shelter. In both cases, their art was deeply embedded in the social and political fabric of their time. At the heart of the minstrel tradition was oral storytelling. In a world where books were rare and expensive, minstrels served as living libraries. They memorized epic poems, historical tales, and romantic legends, performing them in marketplaces, castles, and village squares. These performances were not merely for entertainment, they were a primary means of preserving and transmitting cultural identity. Stories of heroic knights, tragic lovers, and moral lessons shaped how communities understood themselves and their place in the world. Music, of course, was central to their craft. Minstrels played a variety of instruments, including lutes, harps, fiddles, and flutes. Their songs ranged from courtly love ballads to satirical pieces that poked fun at authority figures. In doing so, they often walked a fine line between pleasing their audiences and avoiding trouble. A poorly received joke or an ill-timed critique could have serious consequences, particularly in rigidly hierarchical societies. Interestingly, minstrels also played a role in the spread of news. Before the rise of newspapers, information traveled slowly and often unreliably. Minstrels, constantly on the move, became informal carriers of current events. Through song and story, they relayed tales of battles, political changes, and distant happenings. While their accounts were not always accurate, they contributed to a shared awareness that extended beyond local communities. Despite their cultural importance, minstrels occupied an ambiguous social position. Those employed by nobles could achieve a certain level of respect, but many others were viewed with suspicion. Their itinerant lifestyle placed them outside traditional social structures, and they were sometimes associated with dishonesty or moral looseness. In some regions, laws were even enacted to control or restrict their movements. Yet, this very marginality also gave them a unique freedom to move between different social worlds, observing and reflecting on them through their art. The legacy of the minstrels can still be felt today. Modern singer-songwriters, street performers, and even stand-up comedians echo aspects of the minstrel tradition. The idea of a performer as both entertainer and storyteller, someone who captures the spirit of their time and shares it with others, remains deeply rooted in contemporary culture. Moreover, the blending of music and narrative that characterized minstrel performances continues to influence genres ranging from folk music to musical theater. However, it is also important to distinguish historical minstrels from later forms of entertainment that borrowed the name but not the context. For example, minstrel shows in the 19th century United States, which involved racial caricature and blackface performance, represent a very different and deeply problematic chapter in cultural history. These later developments should not be confused with the medieval European tradition, though they remind us how cultural forms can be reshaped and sometimes distorted over time. Minstrels were more than mere entertainers. They were custodians of memory, mediators of culture, and, in many ways, the voice of a largely voiceless age. Through their songs and stories, they connected people across distances and generations, leaving behind a legacy that still resonates in how we share and experience narratives today.